Peter Fonda tweets hateful comments about the president, his son, and wife. Congresswoman Waters calls for harassment of Trump administration officials. And Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders is forced to leave a Lexington, Virginia restaurant. Is this the new norm in America? Are we entering an era of uncivility? Well, joining us from the Media Research Center is Dan Gainor. He's MRC's Vice President of Business and Culture. Dan, from Hollywood to Washington, what is going on? Have you ever seen it this bad?
Well, I think it's in history. It's been worse, but for context, we need to remember it's not always what you say, it's what you do. The left tried an assassination of Trump during the campaign. Another guy charged the stage when Trump was running for office. Since then, we just passed the one-year anniversary of an attempted assassination of multiple Republican congressmen that sent 2 to a hospital, 1 seriously. And let's not rule out a liberal attacking Senator Rand Paul at his home. We're seeing not just the incidents, but the tenor of things has been ratcheted up to the point that the left doesn't want anyone they disagree with to be able to go to a school without confrontation, a restaurant, a movie, go shopping.
And what is the effect when a member of Congress actually calls for administration officials to be harassed?
Well, I think it basically is giving the imprimatur of legitimacy on what they're doing. It basically says, oh, well, if Congress is okay, somebody in Congress is okay with this, then that's fine.
And I know a lot of people on the left would probably say, well, this is all because of the president with his inflammatory tweets and the way he handles himself. So I don't recall this happening to Obama administration officials, this type of harassment. What would have been their reaction if it had?
Well, I think their reaction would have been extreme. And I think you would have media people calling for widespread arrests and silencing of speech and people to be banned from social media. This is a dangerous trend where they think anything goes. And yet, if the reverse had happened, they'd be screaming so loud you could hear them across the country.
Well, I know that on the left, they're saying the Tea Partiers harassed Obama people and Democrats several years ago. And again, President Trump with his inflammatory tweets. So how is what is happening now any different than that?
Well, one, the first, they're exaggerating things. I mean, there's been an ongoing sort of street combat we've had since Occupy Wall Street, where the left has tried to confront people and also commit widespread examples of crime, as Occupy Wall Street did, and as Black Lives Matter groups have committed crime, etc. 20 police officers were killed or were injured, in a Black Lives Matter protest up in Minnesota a few years back. So then we had the 5 police officers who were killed by a Black Lives Matter supporter in Texas. President Trump, the thing that the left is really doing pushback, Trump said mean things and said people should be confronted aggressively at his rallies. And that's the thing. Oh, well, Trump said this. But they forget that the left was actively trying to silence Trump's rallies. They ended up shutting down one of them. And they had professional disruptors going to these events, trying to silence them. To sort of compare that to having a member of Congress calling for people to be harassed, there's just no comparison at all.
Dan, who's financing this? Because it seems like some of these protests and some of these actions are well organized. Who's planning them? Who's financing them?
Well, I wish I knew. I mean, I know some people on our side will say George Soros is tied to it. Part of the problem with that is George Soros funds almost everything on the left. So you could say that, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. If you go back to the Women's March, you could definitely say that in that case. We did the analysis, and 100 of the groups involved in the Women's March had received like $246 million from Soros, his foundation. That doesn't mean that they did it because Soros told them to, but there's a lot of groupthink going on their side. They think that they can get away with this stuff, and then they take action, and we see media outlets either supporting it or not making a big deal about it.
And finally, Dan, what do we need to do then to stop all of this and become more civil in our politics?
Well, I think we're all guilty of it. We saw with the passing of Charles Krauthammer a giant who had worked for both sides and was very much an honorable civil guy. Uh, I think we all learn from that. But then you look at it and you say, you've got people who are calling for harassment, harassing people at their homes, at their businesses. It's hard to be civil in the face of that. So I think it's responsibility of both sides to try to damp down, what's going on here. Because if we don't, then we head to a path that is not a good place, and we'll all suffer for it.
Well, I think we need more of our leaders to speak out against this, don't we?
Absolutely. I mean, you see the parade of liberal congressmen coming out and saying, Maxine, you've gone too far and we need to calm down. No, they instead, by not doing that and by the press not pressing them, she's encouraged to do more.
Okay, Dan Gainor, thanks for joining us today, Dan. Appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.